Welcome back, one and all, and we're back to our game. We're getting really close to the end, where we are displaying our lives as bullets when we play the game. And what we want to do is make sure that every time we click, we expend one of these bullets up here. And we've already decided that we're going to use those to represent each life. So we already have lives in place. We have score. There's no way that this game really ends. It just keeps going and going and going. So what we want to do is make it so every time we click, one of these bullets goes away because we want to lose a life, which is technically a bullet. And once all the bullets are gone, we want to end the game. So we're gonna have to do several things to get this working. And one of the things that's going to be interesting about this video is for those of you that are used to the older version of Game Maker. Now, I don't know about Game Maker Studio version 1, but I made a jump from Game Maker 8 to Game Maker Studio 2, and I found that there were some significant changes. One of which it has to do with the scores, health, lives, and score. It used to be that those were what were called global variables, where there was just score, and there was one score, the variable score. You really couldn't do two players unless you created a separate variable and treated it differently. But what they've done here is score, health, and lives are now variables that are attached to each individual object. So it makes it better because then you can have multiplayer games and things. But I did find that this made for a more interesting game. What we're going to do is create, I guess we'll just start by creating the next game over room. Actually, before we do that, let's get let's have the game ending going first. We want to subtract a life every time we click. Well, it's the crosshair that does the clicking, and it's that global left pressed. So we're going to go to that event. And basically, we're going to not only create an instance of the object whole, but we're going to take one life away. So I'm going to type on here, lives. And then basically it's set lives, and we drag it underneath. And now it's the lives of the object controller, because as you may recall, that's the object that was adding the lives. And we're going to basically add a negative life. Relative means you're adding. And the minus, of course, is, we're subtracting, basically. Okay, we're adding a negative number. There we go. All right, so this subtracts a life, and let's see if this is working, where every time we click, one of those lives goes away. Then we need to have an end-of-game mechanic. So right now, I can click and keep clicking and keep playing. All right, so we want to not allow that. So basically, once we've lost all our lives, we want to basically go to the game over room. And we're going to create a game over object that's going to display the final score and indicate that it's over. By going to another room, what we're going to do is we're going to have another room that no longer has the controller. And by not having the controller, it means the timeline won't be working, which means ducks won't keep appearing. But we're just going to duplicate this room. And the reason why we're going to duplicate it, it's way easier than to have to set all the background graphics we did before. So we go to room, and I'm going to back here, and room end. Okay, it's our end room, and we're going to get rid of a couple objects. So I'm going to click on the instances layer, and I'm going to delete the crosshair, and I'm going to delete the object controller. If I don't, the ducks will keep appearing, and we don't want that. But if you may recall, we have a sprite for game over. There it is. If you don't happen to have it, it is listed in the assets in the original video. In fact, I don't know if I've linked to those or not, but I'll put a link to my GitHub repository that has the assets in there. But we need an object called object game over, all one word apparently. So I'm going to right click on here. I'm going to create an object, and it's object underscore game over. I'm going to set the sprite, which is going to be the game over sprite. Okay, so this thing, we're going to do a draw GUI. So we're going to basically draw itself. So we go to draw GUI. And then we just want to draw itself. So I'll double click on here, and we'll type out draw, and we're looking for draw self. There it is. It's the icon that has a pencil at the bottom and what looks like an avatar at the top. So we're going to draw ourselves, and we're going to put it in the room. So let's go to room end and put the object game over into the room. We'll just put it kind of in the center. I don't know if I'm at the center or not, so let's see if we can maximize the room. And it's a little off. And we're going to what I'd like to do is show the final score just below game over. All right, let's just test this out to make sure it's working. The other thing is I forgot to mention doing git version control. So you want to make sure you have that. Okay, so I'm going to click and get to the end of the game. And okay, I have no more lives. Okay. Oh, we haven't moved to the next room. We need to add that as well. So the controller is the thing that controls the game. So basically, when there's no more lives, we want to basically go to the next room. That's going to be, there's no actual event for no more lives. That's one of the other changes. Under other, there used to be, well, they have a game start, game end, um, et cetera, et cetera. We do have a room end. I might be able to use that later. But they used to have an other, which is no more health and no more lives. So we're gonna have to deal with that a little different. We're gonna have to do that in step. So I'm gonna go in here and step, and I'm just gonna go ahead and choose step. So at every step, we're gonna check to see if there's no more lives, and then we're gonna end. We're gonna go to the next room, which will effectively end the game. So we need to check for lives. So I'm gonna type on here lives, and if lives, and drop this over. Whose lives? Well, it's the controller's lives, so I guess that's other, or self, I mean, because we are on the controller. And if it's equal to, we'll say less than or equal to 0. Okay, then we're going to go to the next room. So that room. Oops, I did not mean to wrap around the room. That would be odd. So under room, we have go to next room. We also have go to room, and we can specify which room. Oh, one of the things here, this is another one of those wacky things that is kind of new for me, which I haven't done before, is this idea of game maker if checks. This is, okay, we're almost getting to the part where I would much rather be in game maker language mode because these blocks can get a little unwieldy at times. So what I did here, I just clicked the go to room and I dragged it so it sort of did that little highlight bar on the right, and then I let go. And that means when we, basically if lives are less than or equal to 0, then we're going to go to the room end. Should be this one. Yep, go to room end. All right, let's try it again. If this works, let's commit our changes. By the way, I did check out another branch, and I called it Endgame, which I didn't really show you. I've been talking a lot about Git, but I decided not to show everything. Hey, there we go. We have game over. I would like to show what the score is, and this particular part gave me some really interesting challenges. How do you deal with basically sending the value of score into another room where an object doesn't exist? If we had a global variable, a variable that belonged to the game itself, we would have a much easier time. And so, because there used to be a score, health, and lives that was just the global variable, we're going to basically set lives. We're going to set a global variable called lives. And there actually is a thing for setting global variable. So interesting is before we go to the room, we can actually set a variable. So basically, we're going to take a variable, we'll call it end score, and then that score will belong to the game, not to this particular object anymore. So the game, for the world, the game itself will know what that value is, and we can grab it in any room we want. But we're going to set it in this room at the end. Okay, so how do we do that? I'm going to type up there for variable, and if you look here, there's a little. There it is, set global variable, and there's a get global variable. So note we can do that. So what this basically is, and by the way, we have to make sure we set this before we go to the room, or this object, once we go to the room, the object's no longer there. We can do nothing once we've gone to the other room. So basically, we had to just drag it up. I don't know if you saw that, but you can take an object and you can say drag one below, drag it up, drag it down. Or you see it sort of appear and then let go. All right, so now what's this variable? Okay, it's a global variable. We'll call it end score. All right, well, what's the value? Oh, look, that's what it's called. Now, that's kind of cool. When I type it out, it suddenly tells me, it's called global.endScore. Global meaning it's part of the whole game, all of the game, not just any individual object. This little plus sign means to add another variable. We don't need to. But here we need to set its value. So we need to actually grab the value of the controller's score at this moment. So that's object controller dot, and let's see if we can find score. It doesn't have it there. Let me see if I've got this one right. I think it's called, there it is. Okay. D&D Live's D&D score stands for drag and drop, and it's drag and drop score. I don't remember how I found that. I just did. Maybe I started to type out score and it found this D&D, whatever. But anyways, that's what it is. And in case you forget, it actually has 2 underscores. You start to do an underscore. Yeah. You can also just type out score, I believe, and it may find it. There you go, score. And it's the D&D stands for drag and drop score. Weird, right? But that's what it is. Not only that, but now we've got this score. We have the end score, and we set it. So now what we want to do is we basically want to draw what the score is on the game over object. Remember, it's called global.endScore. But before I go, before I do that, let me just make sure you see this whole value here. I just want to make sure you can see all of that. If it lets me, there we go. I just wanted you to see that we're going to set the global variable. It's called endScore, and we're going to set it to the value of the object controller's D&D score. Okay, and then we go to the room. Okay, we have to do it in that order, or else it doesn't work. So if you go to a room and the object no longer exists in that room, then anything else after that just is gone, and there's no way to read it. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at our object game over. And what we want to do is on draw GUI, not only do we want to draw itself, but we want to draw the value of the variable, and I believe it's just draw value. Okay, this is one of those where if you have like a if you have like a variable, or you just want to write something else out, you do draw value. So the caption is now going to be final score, like so, and now it's global dot end score. And code hint told me. Now we're going to make this final score relative to the game over object. And we're going to take a look at the sprite for the game over object. We want to kind of put it right on the left-hand side of the game over. And as you may see, the origin is 174. It's a width of 349. So 174 is going to be how far to the left we want it to appear. And so we go back over to the object game over. I'm going to draw this at negative 174. Now we're going to make it relative. So we're going to put negative 174, and then we're going to do a y of, let's try maybe, I don't know, 55. So what that's going to be, it's relative to the position of the game over object. And remember, the origin was at the center of the game over object, so we push it over to the left, and then we drop this down, and then let's just test it out, see if this is working. And I'm just going to haphazardly click. Oh, I wanted to get that. There we go. Game over. Final score of 20. Now, there's one last thing I want to do before I go. Okay. Before I go, I wanted to point something out. When you get to about 100 on your game or more, so now I have to play it again and do well enough. When you get like 100 or more, watch what happens with the score in those bullets. And we have to get one of the ones with the target. We got 70. All right, I can't waste my bullets here. We're at 80. I just need to get one more after this. I mean, I could have waited. I could have shot it, but I have one. There we go. Oh, we couldn't see it. All right, but the point is, we need to move the bullets over a little bit on the object controller. And so we're gonna go to the object controller, and I discovered when it was drawing the GUI, and it was drawing the lives, instance lives, we need to set this further. So we're going to set this to, I'm going to make it 300, give it a big cushion in between, and go ahead and run it one last time. And if that works, we're going to save our changes. We need to commit this to Git. Yeah, see, the bullets are far enough away. We could get like thousands of points, and then it would be fine. Anyway, so that's going to work for now. If you want to adjust those values, feel free to make the adjustment that you want. All right, so I'm going to save my changes. Everything worked out okay. Oh, wrong one. And we do a git status. I'm on the development branch. We do git add dot, git commit -m, adding game over mechanic. Hit enter. I'm gonna git push origin development, and then put in my password. Make sure everything is okay. There we go. Push it through. And at this point, we are up to date, and we're getting really close. The only thing we want to do is add a few more objects and have an ammo that if we hit, or if we have a target that has bullets on it, if we hit it, we get more ammo. So I'll save the final video for that. So stay tuned for it. It's going to be released pretty soon. So be on the lookout for it. Thanks for watching.